to build a business. And you are a business owner, whether you realize it or not, if you're a real estate agent. And today, Shelby's going to talk to us about that. Welcome, Shelby. How are you?
Thank you. I am great. I'm so excited to be here. I'm pretty highly caffeinated, so I'm ready to go.
Okay. We're going to limit you to 2 Red Bulls during this next 35 minutes or so.
Okay, gotcha. I'll just chug them. Yeah.
Chug them, baby, chug them. So I know that you've been a real estate agent for about 3.5 years or so. Is that right?
Coming up on 6.
Coming up on 6.
Okay. We've been in it. We're salty, crusty, been around the block and back again. So
salty, crusty, been around the block and back again.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I love it. I love it. And so you've had a lot of success in real estate sales. I know you were Rookie of the Year, and I know that you did more than 1.3 million of GCI with 570 transactions within your first few years.
Yeah.
Been around the block. And what have you learned? What can you share with us today?
What have I learned? Oh my gosh, that is such a big question. Dan, how could you do that to me? Well, what I've learned is that less is more. That is definitely something that I've taken away from my experience. I know in the beginning, when you don't know what you don't know, you try to do so much. And I feel like that falls within each one of like the pillars of business, if you would. So like within marketing, a lot of people for their marketing strategy are like, oh, I'm going to do calls and I'm going to door knock and I'm going to do open houses and I'm going to post on social media and I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to do events. And the thing is, if you're trying to do everything, you're doing nothing well. And in the beginning, it is good to go out and get a bunch of experience in different areas and kind of like assess what you like and what you don't like. But once you find something, which spoiler alert, like everything works, it's just doing it, putting the blinders on, staying consistent and doing it long enough to reap the rewards of your efforts.
Yeah, it could be somewhat boring actually. If you really are going to master, if you're really going to focus on what is my superpower, what's the way that I'm going to find business, for example, and you triple, quadruple down on it, then it's just literally just doing it. And what I find is, I don't know if you agree with this, is that we start with this optimism of, okay, I'm going to do YouTube ads or YouTube videos. And then I start, and then I find out it's a whole hell of a lot harder than what I ever expected.
Every time.
And so then I get that pessimism. So I started with that optimism that's not earned. And then I get to that pessimism. And then guess what? Oh, wait a second. Facebook ads. Oh, let me go do that. Mm-hmm. And so now I've got a renewed optimism, and that's the cycle that continues. Yet if you figure out what you want to do and you just hammer it, you will have success.
Totally agree. And I hear it consistently all the time from people who are just starting. They're like, oh, I did calls today and, I'm just not good at that. Like, that is not for me. And I'm like, okay, well, if you, today was the first day you were playing a violin, the first day you picked it up, would you expect to be good right away? The same thing goes with all these conversations in whichever outlet you are doing them. And it's not until you have so many reps that you become the machine and you truly like embody what you're learning, that you can become the expert, and then you enjoy it because you're like, I'm good at this.
I'm good at this, girl.
Yeah.
Let's talk about building systems for your real estate business. What systems do you need for a real estate business?
Oh my gosh. So what I was going to talk about today was less of like, so when people hear systems, they generally, first of all, get like scared and they're like, oh, I know I need that. I don't really know what that means. Is that like tech? Like, do I need to pay for something? And so like, what I was going to talk about today is like keeping it as simple as possible. So I was in the Army for 6 years and there's this thing called KISS. And I don't know if it's outside the Army too, but it's keep it simple, stupid. And so in regard to systems building, it's doing the process, documenting it, automating it, and then leveraging it. And I really do think that overall, you can build systems in any part of your everyday life. And if you intend to document the process as you go, and we could talk about all this, with the intent of leveraging it down the road, that is now a system. Because at the end of the day, a system is just a consistent way that you do things in a manner that will generate, the predictable result that you're looking for, right?
Keep it simple, stupid. Just keep it so. Yeah, I said it right. Keep it
Yeah.
stupid, simple.
Right.
Don't keep it stupid. If you're taking notes, keep it simple. Don't keep it stupid.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what type of simple systems do we need to succeed?
Well, I mean, easy examples are the things that you are doing repeatedly in your business. So like the first one is, and as you're going through your day, if you're like, what systems do I need? As you're going through your day, pay attention to the things that you have done before and you will do again. And the easiest examples are like the email templates, so you never want to think through the same thing twice. And, simple scales, fancy fails. So with the systems,
hold on. You got all these really, really cool sayings. Do that. Simple what?
Simple scales, fancy fails.
Okay,
and
cool.
That's completely stolen. This is something I realized the other day. I do not have very many original thoughts. This is what I do. I read a book, I listen to a podcast. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then I forget about it and it like absorbs into my psyche and then it'll just come out right now on a podcast with you. So that was actually Alex Hormozy. That was not Shelby.
All right, Alex. We'll give Alex Hormozy. Look, hold on. Oh, shoot. I thought I had within arm reach. I do. All right. A little plug for Alex Hormozy.
That's so good. I freaking, what's funny? That same book is actually propping up my webcam now.
All right. Fantastic. See?
Dude, I'm a big fan. Okay. But yeah,
I got you off track.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Shelly. I got track. Fancy.
Okay.
Go on.
Yeah. So really the way, if I was going to start building systems today within my business, I would take a notebook along with me for the ride of the day and document all the things that I do repeatedly. And then as I'm going throughout that process, just commit to documenting as you go. I don't know if this makes sense, but so like, for instance, like the email templates, we can go on that rabbit hole. You're sending the same emails to buyers when you first meet them as a follow-up. You're sending it after you go under contract. If you're not using transaction coordinator, then it's the same process from contract to close. Same with the listing appointment. After the listing appointment, you're sending the follow-up email. Here's what we spoke about. Here's your to-do list. Here's my to-do list. Here's the seller's net sheet, blah, 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 all that stuff. So if you, at this point in time, are rewriting that each time, that is a really easy interpersonal system to build out right now. To your last sent, copy that, and then save it in whether you just save it in your drafts, that's really simple, or maybe you're sending it from your CRM, or maybe you're using like Superhuman, which is like my favorite thing right now. However you are emailing, you save it to that spot, and then you use it consistently from here on out. And you have to commit to it being a living and breathing document because you're updating as you go. Nothing in business is ever done, right? So.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you're going through that, I'm thinking about all the system. Now I've got system. My business is a system. I mean, from everything from how to get hired 85% of the time to how to prevent the predictable problems of a transaction to how to be able to communicate excessively. But what I realize as I'm listening to you is that there's been, let's say, I do have a system running business. And let's say that's like probably 10% of all the systems I've created. There's probably 90%, 9 out of 10 that I've created something. And then for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't the right system, or maybe I wasn't able to get other team members on board, to be able to use it, but it just didn't work. But the end of the day is, I did have to go through a lot more creation than I did, now here's what's working. Have you had that same experience, or are you just better than me?
No, I mean, that is one of the things about being a business owner too, that if you're not like mentally ready for it, which I don't think you can be, that like the amount of failures is the wrong word, but like things that don't last forever. So, you have this to-do list or whatever, and you're like, yes, I'm going to tackle X, Y, and Z, and then it'll be done. That's like in your head, it'll be done. But the thing is, nothing is ever completely done because of, like you said, you're always evolving, finding another piece, a better way to do it, or the technology is evolving. And so you need to adapt, or the market's changing. So it's kind of like you're building in the sand and it's kind of always, it's a little depressing, but it's reality.
Okay. So we're talking about simple systems. We're talking about like,
Very
if it's
simple.
something that you've done before,
Yeah.
document it because you're going to more likely do it again.
Yeah.
What about, one of the things that I've been what I paid attention to throughout my career is really paying attention to mistakes.
Ooh,
And
love that one.
I've used mistakes as opportunities, and it may or may not have been a mistake, but let's just say you have a conversation with a seller or a buyer and it doesn't go the way you want it to go. What I've done is sit there and say, okay, great. You handle it. It's live fire. You deal with what you have to do. I'm talking to the Army captain right now. Live fire. See what I did there? There you go.
You're so good.
And so then it's like going back and reflecting to say, well, what could I have done to prevent that problem? And whatever that may have been, now let me implement that into my systems, into my business moving forward.
100%.
Have you had that experience as well?
Yeah, 100% agree. In the Army, so we're going on this theme now, they call them AARs. So it's after action review, where you reflect and you say, hey, what are the sustains and what are the improves? Like, what are the things that we did well that we want to make sure that are in our checklist, in our system, in, whatever technology you're using to keep track of shit. And where are the areas for improvement? And it could be, oh, I didn't know that I should, get a termite inspection, whatever. And then you take that piece, whatever the improves are, and you just plug it into your system, which
Sure.
Again, system is as simple as you want or need it to be, because at the end of the day, it's not about the actual system. It's about whether or not you're going to do it. So if you make it really complicated and you're never going to want to touch that technology, then just get yourself a freaking Google Doc and build your checklist on a Google Doc if you know you'll use it.
Yeah, I'm a recovering brokerage owner. And when I used to own the brokerage, I would have almost every single day, I'd have the agents coming up to me with the same problems over and over and over again. The same bitches, the same moans, the same groans. And, I'll give you an example. I remember I was talking to an agent. I remember she was just bitching and bitching and bitching about her client, who was the seller, was calling her to complain, or this client actually called me as well, that another agent came into the house and left the lights on when they were showing the home. And
Gasp.
Option A, approach that with, oh, that sucks. Not my fault. Option B, accommodate the seller the best you can, and then realize to say, wait, that's an opportunity from this point moving forward for every single client from this point moving forward, that I can have the conversation with them up front. Hey, Mr. Seller, there may be some times when a buyer comes by your home, they're always going to be with an agent. I'm always going to be checking in with them before and after. And there may be some times where they leave something that's a little bit misaligned, or they leave a light on, or maybe a door open. What I could tell you is that I'm going to be asking for them to be respectful of you and your property, to leave it in the very same manner that you found it in. And I'll be following up with them in the unlikely event that something does, a light is on or not. Just let me know, and I promise you that I'll take the appropriate actions. Does that sound fair, Mr. Seller? And that's a conversation right there. Or you could bitch and moan. Option B or option A.
Yeah, the option is to never bitch and moan. Like it does no good, as the agent, at least it does no good, because now that's energy that you are committing to being negative, to feeling sorry for yourself. Now you're a victim. I can't believe the seller doesn't understand me. No, you're right. It's an opportunity to add to your systems, your checklist, as the conversation you have at the listing appointment. Just like you said, manage those expectations.
So tell me about 5 pillars. So 5 pillars is a movement for agents to build real estate businesses and real wealth alongside with their peers. So what is
Yeah.
that? Tell us what that
Yeah,
is.
dude, it's evolved. So I am a recovering, you said you're a recovering broker owner. I'm a recovering team leader in the sense of like the Gary Keller millionaire real estate agent teams, where, you know, we had a bunch of agents and it was 50-50 splits with a lot of overhead and a lot of responsibility on the team. And a lot of those problems that kept coming up over and over again. And so I feel you, bro. And from that, I had this like actual, like total identity crisis, because when I first started, you know, as a solo agent, I closed a bunch of deals my first year. I acquired a lot of rentals in my portfolio. I transformed my identity into Shelby, the solid top producing agent and investor. And I did that for years as we were leading the team. Five Pillars Realty Group was what we used to be called. And I was acquiring a shit ton of rentals. And then it was about 2021 is where I stopped producing personally. And I also stopped acquiring rentals. And then there was this market shift. And so I had this identity crisis where I was like, I don't want to be doing this traditional team anymore, sucking the life out of me. I'm no longer acquiring rentals. You know, I'm stabilizing my portfolio. Less is more is my whole thing. And I'm like, shit, without, you know, these things, who am I? And who do I want to spend my time around? Because the traditional team attracted, in my experience, it's not always this way, attracted the people who wanted the handouts or wanted to be babysat. And I was like, I am not a babysitter. I do not want to do this. Who do I want to spend time with? Well, I want to spend time with the people who are out building their own empires, who want to be trailblazers and like bring me energy in the conversation and don't just suck my soul out. And so I was like, okay, well, I have all of these systems and things that I loved about the team. Like we did a lot of cool stuff together. So how do I get to keep what I love and let go of what I don't and put the responsibility back on the shoulders of the agents? And so I went full steam, the EXP model, with like revenue share as the only income we got. There was no splits. Everyone who joined the community, you're your own business owner. I'll help you build your businesses and take it or leave it. No one's babysitting you anymore. And did that. I mean, still doing that, but what we're changing now is we're doing an actual coaching program now for only, it's application only. You have to qualify. There's an interview process. And the whole thing with Five Pillars is that we believe in the 5 pillars of building a real business. And it's taking agents who are, you know, playing the whack-a-mole, shiny object, you know, chaotic thing, closing deals, but it's all chaos, and bringing them into a community where there's a course and there's a lot of accountability to transform that chaos into a sustainable, ultimately sellable business. That's the goal. So that was a lot of words. I'm so sorry.
Share with us the 5 pillars.
Yeah. So the first is bedrock, and that is your business plan, your vision for the future, company structure. And then the 3 in the middle are marketing, sales, and delivery. So marketing, how are you building your brand and also lead generating consistently as a machine? Then sales, what is your sales process for converting, nurturing those leads? And then delivery is the contract to close, post-closing procedures. And the last pillar that comes upon it all is finances. That thing that no agent really wants to look at. And they're like, what are taxes?
What money?
Yeah, exactly. So that is it.
Got it. So those are the 5 pillars.
Yeah. Yes, all of them.
So those are the 5 pillars. And where do you see, so obviously, I mean, each one of them, you've got the foundation, and you've got the 3 pillars, and then you got the capstone.
Yeah.
Where do you see is the biggest opportunity for most agents? Is there one of those 5?
I think that the biggest, well, it depends on that personal agent. And it depends on, you know, some people are naturally good at things and lean towards one way or the other. But as a whole, what I've seen market, like industry wide, is that agents do not actually understand how to market. They don't understand the marketing piece. They don't understand that it's like a huge piece of their business. They think that they post once on social media, and now everyone who is their friend should like let them, and the lead should just come out of the sky. And it's like, that's not how it works, especially like in the world today.
So if I was a new agent and you're coaching me right now,
Yeah.
and I'll give you some metrics here. And let's
Sure.
say that I am relatively comfortable with social media. I'm relatively comfortable with videos. I'm relatively comfortable with prospecting, with making requests. None of it makes me entirely uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm not like a 10 out of a 10 in any of those areas. What would you advise me to do, or what would you ask of me for you to figure out of what to advise me to do?
Well, first of all, it's not about comfort or being, uncomfortable or whatever. So some of my questions originally, it's like, do you already know who you want to work with? Because that's something that I see consistently is like, people are like, oh, I'll just work with anyone. It's like, it would be a lot more efficient and effective if you had an avatar, if you had that target audience in mind. And so specifically, like, let's say, farming, for example, is a really easy one because it's like, think about what price point you want to sell in. That's narrowed you down already,
Sure.
if price point, and then also think about what's close to you proximity wise. Like ideally perfect scenario is like if you're living in a neighborhood with the houses that you want to sell, amazing. But like starting that way, because there's so many people who are like, oh, like I got this lead and it's a $30,000 house and it's 2 hours away and I'm just going to take it. And I'm all about saying yes to opportunity, but you only have so much time and so much energy. So if you could pick
What's the opportunity cost?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I would say to them. It's like, think through who, what location, what price point, buyers and sellers, get that locked in. And once you have it, whether you're an agent or not, you don't have to be an experienced agent to like think through that. And then
Sure.
where do those people hang out? What do they do? Get inside their psyche and like literally put all of your energy and effort into that person.
Okay. So find your people, your avatar.
Yeah,
Then where do they hang out? Now let me be wherever they are at.
totally.
But with the disclaimer, with a little asterisk of your avatar, of being careful about who it is that you are defining. I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation less than a week ago. I was at a conference in Vegas, and I met with my first assistant. So my first closing I had in real estate sales was April 7th, 2008. On April 8th, 2008, I hired my first assistant. Today, she's $100 million producer. All on around, and she is freaking amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. And I was having a conversation with her this past week, and I was complimenting on her on her perceived success. And she's like, well, Dan, she's like, it is a perception. She's like, there's a lot of challenges that go with it. And I say, well, tell me more about it. She said, well, and I already knew this about her because we have a close relationship. She's like, I'm a pretty responsive person. I'm a pretty demanding person. That my standards are really, really high. And I was like, yeah, that's what I love about you. She says, well, guess what I've created? I've created a business of really, really highly demanding people who want responsiveness, who have standards that are extraordinarily almost unattainable. And because that's who she is, right? It's like attracts like. Now, to me, that's not a bad client to have as long as you can perform, right? But I could see where that type of client could cause you to not be able to take a vacation or be able to take a day off, right? Because, unless if you do have the systems and people to be responsive on your behalf. So that's an example there where you're defining your avatar, that you really want to be thoughtful about the future. Like, okay, here's my avatar. Okay, well, maybe my avatar, because maybe I'm a young lady and I'm having my first baby. So my avatar is new moms. Great. But 15 years from now, are you going to be a new mom? Right? Like, so that's going to evolve. And so you may just want that I don't know. It may or may not be something to consider. I don't know.
I totally think it is. And I have a lot of firsthand experience in this. Like I invested, and
Sure.
I invested aggressively at a time when it was good to invest aggressively. That's a whole nother story. And then that's what I was sharing, on social media. And I was going on all of these investor podcasts. I went on, if Bigger Pockets, it's like the biggest worldwide, whatever. So I was on all of these investor podcasts. And then shockingly, all of the people who reached out to me wanted to be investors. They
Sure.
were either investor agents who wanted to join the team, which their primary, focus was not being an agent. It was being an investor. They just got their license on the side. Or it was all of these people who wanted to invest in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is where I was. And I talked about my properties that I got for 40 grand, put 15 into it. Like, and at the end of the day, I attracted my own monster. And because I don't those people, I don't. And so I still have like a lot of people who want to invest, join our community, which is amazing. Like I am all about the investing and all that stuff. But they'll hit me up and they'll be like, oh, like I want to go on podcasts. I want to go on all these investor podcasts. And I'm like, awesome. I can totally set you up with that. Just confirming though, what result do you want from it?
Yeah.
Because that's something I never thought about. I was like, just noise and, energy on the world, but every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And the energy that you put out is going to attract that same thing, just like you said.
All right. So let's get back. So create your or identify your avatar, figure out where your avatar hangs out with, and then be there. All right. So this goes back to the question of, if I'm relatively comfortable doing most anything, like what do I do? Keep it simple, stupid. So what's next? So we went back to the 5 pillars, and you said the marketing piece is the one that you see that most agents struggle with.
Yeah.
So is it more than just what you said, or is it that's it? I mean, talk to us
There's
more
never
about
that's it, Dan.
Oh, okay. Well,
There's so much more. I mean, I think you said it early on in this podcast too. It's like everything that you think is going to be easy is actually this just like, so much more than you think. But yeah, so you're going to pick your avatar and you're going to think about, I think there's a lot of things to consider when you're thinking about like what you actually want to do for your marketing strategy once you have that avatar. And it does go back to what feels authentic, of course, but also what has the return that you're looking for in regard to your own time and longevity. So what I mean by that is hypothetically, they're good at social media, right? They like video. You have the option of, oh, I'm going to do Instagram or I'm going to do YouTube. Kind of the same on camera skill set, lots of difference behind the scenes, but we're not going to talk about that. We don't have enough time right now. But if you're considering these two, I challenge you to think about which one has the longer, more evergreen impact for you and your business, because a lot of people are like, oh, Instagram's easier. I'm just going to do some reels and some posts. But the thing with Instagram is you post it. And this is what people do. If you're not watching, I'm grabbing my phone and I'm just scrolling. I'm just flicking. I'm flicking. And guess what? That post that you spent whatever amount of time on is gone. And it's probably never going to come back. Whereas if you do YouTube, YouTube is a search engine. It's like Google. And so you do a video and yeah, it takes a little longer, whatever. That video now exists on there forever. And people who are searching for that specific content will find it. And you will get more and more views over time from now until forever that YouTube exists. So that's something else that you should consider when you're picking your strategy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, and there's a difference between the longevity of a technique or tactic versus so it's like, from my perspective, is you need business today. You need to eat today. And when you're building a business, because that's what we're talking about, you want to make your future easier. You want to make your future more sustainable. So maybe perhaps YouTube, that's gonna build a sustainable business. Yet you may have to do something else in addition to YouTube to be able to find business today.
Totally agree. And I mean, to go back on, I'm not knocking Instagram by any means. Like I am working. So during my identity crisis, I took a long time off from the internet, and I'm about to come back on the internet on October 20th. So I'm pretty excited about the reels that are going to come out.
We got 11 days before you hit the internet again.
Back on the internet. Yeah.
I'm going to blast this all over social. This is going to be like you're launching right here. Be like, guess what? Shelby's coming back.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is weird. I mean, I'm still on there. It's just been like real quiet on the freaking Western front or whatever. What was I going to say? Oh, the thing is with Instagram, I'm not saying knock it. And the reason why too is because I think Instagram is one of the best ways to nurture your clients. So we talked about, there's lead generating, there's bringing in new people into your world, right? And then there's that like nurture process, because a lot of them are not ready right now. And so you can either do the just checking in, your little text, not that you should say that, or like call them or whatever. Or when you meet them in those belly to belly interactions that you're doing to try to get those quicker, because you said there's the longer, and then there's I need to eat now. You've got to get in front of more and more people, right? But during that conversation, it's like, oh, dude, what's your Instagram? I'm gonna follow you, follow me back. And so it's that you're pulling them into your nurture, which they're not even really realizing maybe. And then you're using Instagram as a way to consistently share your story. So you're not being salesy, but you're sharing your story and you're including real estate in that. And then you are now in their psyche.
I love it. I love it. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, you should see the little gestures that Shelby's making with her hands. You're going to have to check. You're going to have to visit the YouTube channel so you can check this out on video, because it's so amazing.
Animated.
Shelby, what's one word of advice that you would give somebody just in general, like the most, like, I guess I have two questions. Is what's the biggest thing you've screwed up on in business? I don't want to hear about your high school boyfriends, right? But
biggest thing I screwed up on business. I would say one of the reasons why I'm most passionate about marketing now is because I never had to. And so it was the biggest thing that I screwed up when I was helping people on my team, because
you never had to.
Yeah. Okay. So I have this personality. I'm like, okay, so on the disc, I'm a high D trailed by an I. And when I meet people, I have a really natural way of converting. Like I am one of those people who's like a natural salesperson, I guess, but not in a salesy way. Like people are just like, oh, whatever you're doing, I'll do it. Sure. That's fine. And so I took
you influence, you persuade.
Yes, persuasive leadership. Yes.
Okay.
And so my first year, I had a meetup that I started, and I did my social media, just sharing my story, but every conversation I had, I would capitalize on it. And it would I closed 48 my first year without paying for a lead, with just from like meeting people. And so we started 5 Pillars, year 2, my day 1 of year 2. And when people came on the team, they're like, okay, well, leads. And I would give them, I had excess, I had overflow, but then they're like, how do I do it? I'm like, just go out and talk to people. What do you mean? You just go to every meetup, talk to people, and then you'll have 5 leads per meetup. And that was just this big mind blowing realization that I had, that that's not realistic for, 99% of people. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm like so big. That all that to say, the biggest thing that I screwed up on, one of them, was not misunderstanding marketing.
Well, I think what you misunderstood was the fact that you were actually doing it extraordinarily well, but you were doing it in a natural way that it didn't seem like work. Would that be accurate?
I think so. Now I feel like this is therapy. Dan, how much do I owe you?
No, I mean, because you said, well, I didn't have to do it, right? I'm like, well, no.
I did it. Yes.
You did it at an extraordinary level, but it didn't seem like work to you. And the reason why I'm pulling that out is because for the listeners and the viewers, Shelby has a God-given talent. Dan has a God-given talent, many for each of us. You, viewer and listener, you have God-given talents. And when you can find those God-given talents, and when you can embrace those in a way that you can naturally align with whatever it is for your lead generation strategy, that one day you'll be on a podcast, you're like, I didn't do anything. I just closed 48 deals my first year. And then I started this meetup and 10,000 people came, and I didn't do anything. It was nothing, right? Like, because it's just so freaking natural. Does that seem about right, Shelby?
A little exaggerated, but I accept.
48 wasn't, maybe the 10,000 was, but the 48 wasn't.
It's true. Yes.
So, all right. So that was my first question. And all right. So then my next question is, if I am an agent and I'm riding that roller coaster and I've got a closing in January, nothing February, nothing March. Oh, I got something in April. and I keep going on that the entire year of 1, 2, or 3 transactions, and then nothing the next month and nothing the next month, and then it breaks again. If that's me as an agent, what advice would you give me?
My advice would be to consistently do lead generation, because it sounds like from that they are doing something to generate a little bit of business, or maybe they're just freaking lucky. And then they're like, yeah, I have something. And so they do nothing in regard to continuing every single day to fill their pipeline. And it's not until after closing that they're like, oh, wait, I have to start over again.
I think what they do is they make the servicing of the clients more important than the generating of the clients.
Yeah.
And they use that as an excuse to stop lead generating.
Yes.
That's what I found.
Yes.
So my solution to that is don't lead generate for 8 hours a day. Lead generate for 1 hour a day, every single day of your business for the rest of your life.
Love it.
Then you've got 8 hours or 7 hours if you work an 8-hour workday to be able to service your clients. But you never give up on that 1 to 3 hours of lead generating.
Totally.
Shelby, you're doing a coaching curriculum that's going to be launching here relatively quickly. If I was an agent and I wanted to know how to build a business, not just make sales,
yes,
how do I get in touch with Shelby?
Yeah, on Instagram, I am The Shelby Show. So you can hit me up through there. I manage and answer everything myself. Also go to fivepillarsnation.com. The website has not updated to reflect the launch yet, but it will.
That's when they're listening to
it. Yeah. And also, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the Agent Goldmine, which Dan, would you like to be on my podcast?
I would love to be on your podcast.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
Oh, the Agent Goldmine. Yes. I was been listening to that forever. And it's the best freaking podcast. It's parallel to the No Broke Months podcast. That is the second best podcast in the world.
Dude, you're so full of shit. And I love it so much. Dude, that's okay. Perfect. Yes. Perfect. The Agent Goldmine. Go listen to it too, but always listen to this one first. And this is your favorite.
You can put them in sequential order.
Okay.
Agent Goldmine.
We'll just rotate.
Let's do it.
Cool. And that's it.
Shelby,
so the Shelby
thank you for your time today.
Five Pillars Nation. Sorry. Yes. You're welcome. Thank you for your time, Dan. Dan the man.
You're welcome. CPI community, I wish you to have the best day of your life. Be grateful, make good choices, go help somebody, and go find a listing. God bless you.